A new bill on cultural development promised by the end of the year. An international media network points to a good case for Barbados to force the British government to remove the burdensome air passenger duty. And in sports, rain ruins play for the second day running as the Windies fall for another paltry score. Good evening, I'm Pearson Bowen. This is the CBC Evening News. A much talked about bill to facilitate the development of cultural industries in Barbados is expected to be taken to Parliament by the end of this year. Culture Minister Stephen Lashley says he will be meeting shortly with stakeholders for consultations on that draft legislation. Mr. Lashley says the bill will be based on a threefold plan to accommodate the growing cultural industry sector.
1, to provide a forum for discussion of the bill with cultural industry practitioners. 2, to obtain feedback on the adequacy of the provisions contained in the draft bill for meeting the needs of the respective subsectors. And thirdly, to identify the essential tools of trade which should be included in the schedule of the bill. These schedule items will be eligible for the grant of special customs duty and tax concessions.
Mr. Lashley commends the National Cultural Foundation and key stakeholders for engaging in an effective dialogue and exchange of ideas earlier this year. He says this dialogue is vital in moving forward in a positive direction.
Many of the recommendations from the consultations have in fact been implemented. I want to implore stakeholders to continue the dialogue with the National Culture Foundation on ways to improve the standards, reach and effectiveness of our festival. This will ensure that mutual benefits accrue to the artists, art lovers and the National Cultural Foundation and of course the people of Barbados.
And there is praise tonight for the Central Bank's sponsored Crop Over Visual Arts Festival. Officially opening that festival last night, the Culture Minister praised them for its growth over the years. He says the expansion to 3 locations has provided more opportunities for participants. The Crop Over Visual Arts Festival runs from July the 6th until August the 5th. It seeks to showcase all art forms in Barbados.
The range and versatility of exhibits, in fact, promises that all tastes will be satisfied. Exhibitions such as these provide exposure for the artists, while also continuing to sensitize Barbadians, residents and visitors alike to the wide range and high quality of the work being produced right here in Barbados.
There is a new premier Pan event on the Crop Over calendar. It's called Pan Fusion and will come off on July the 14th at the Prime Minister's official residence, Ilaro Court. The event was launched today with the sponsors, First Citizens, presenting a check for $117,500 to the National Cultural Foundation. NCF Chief Executive Officer Dr. Donna Hunt-Cox says Pan Fusion is a very unique event which combines the sounds of Pan with artists of various genres.
The concept of Pan Fusion is one that we at the NCF have for some time thought about, and in musicians Liam Teague, Victor Provost and Arturo Tapping, we are confident that we have produced a formula that will guarantee the best combination of steel pan music fused with jazz and tuck. There is also the added treat of the glimpse into the future, as some of the aspiring musicians of the Barbados Community College will also be on show.
Well, another event launched was the Crop Over Reading. According to Dr. Hunt-Cox, this event is showing great promise.
There were very positive returns at the reading last year. This year, the program, which is planned, is designed to deliver even more expression, more soul, more pieces to stimulate and provoke the mind.
The Crop Over Reading will be held at the historic George Washington House on July the 21st. Health Minister Donville Innes is pleading with partygoers not to drink too much and cause senseless accidents during the crop over season. He says when people engage in reckless behavior, it places tremendous strain on an already pressured healthcare system.
Certainly the Ministry of Health will continue to provide all the necessary services that we provide at this time of year to ensure that in cases of any emergencies we can respond in a timely fashion. But I really want to remind Barbadians and visitors that it is not for us alone, it's for you to be careful. Whether it is you're driving, you're drinking, you're other activities. Just play it safe and remember that healthcare officials, they have a life too. And anything we can do to reduce the burden on them, we really appreciate it.
Mr. Innes was speaking during a fete at the BTI car park last weekend. He says an accomplishment of the Ministry of Health over the years has been the prevention of outbreaks of foodborne illnesses. He credits this achievement to the training of food handlers in the lead up to the Crop Over Festival every year by the Environmental Health Department.
I think that really truly is a reflection of the commitment the ministry have to being proactive and to continue to train our people early on and to take all precautionary measures to ensure that we do have a healthy crop over season this year as we've done before.
In more crop over news, headliners Calypso Tent this year is promoting abstinence and protection. Tent coordinator Anderson Blood Armstrong spoke about their message on Morning Barbados. Mr. Armstrong says the idea is to encourage Barbadians to protect themselves.
The message basically is you can go out, have a good time, you know, but
and don't end up with an STD.
Exactly, you know, you go out there, you can party without actually, you know, thinking about having sex or whatever the case may be. You go out there, you're gonna drink maybe, but obviously they tell you drink responsibly.
Performer with the headliners tent, Charlene Unique Smith, says the tent is committed to this message.
Headliners is partnering with the Live Up campaign.
That's right.
And what we're trying to enforce here is love, protect, respect. You know, while you come up to party, enjoy yourself, you know, you also have a responsibility to ensure that you're protected.
Wynne Callender has become the first Barbadian to be elected chairman of the North America Caribbean Regional Prison Fellowship. It is part of a Prison Fellowship International, the world's largest prison ministry, which seeks to help prisoners, ex-prisoners and their families. Mr. Callender was nominated for the position with candidates from the Bahamas, Trinidad and Tobago, Belize, Antigua and Jamaica. He says initially there was a division among Caribbean territories, but now they'll be moving forward as a unit.
At the end of it, we had support from, a number of the Caribbean territories, and at the end, we got the full support of all of the Caribbean territories to work together for the interests of the least, the last, and the lost among us in the Caribbean community.
Mr. Callender is now also a member of the Board of Trustees. Superintendent of Prisons Lieutenant Colonel John Nurse is dispelling the notion that too much money is spent to cater to inmates at Dodds prisons. He says while a $30 million budget may seem high, the money allocated to the prison has been reduced, and most goes to pay the salaries of prison officers. According to him, it's a price that must be paid.
We spend very little money, comparatively speaking, on incarceration and people in prison. But if you look at international figures, you will see that our figures are extremely low per inmate. But saying that does not say that we are not spending money. We are in fact spending money. But we are spending money because persons are there and they need to be cared for. They're in the main, they're nationals of Barbados. They're Barbadian. And I don't think any Barbadian would wish to hear or see another Barbadian being left by the wayside.
The superintendent of prison says the human rights of all citizens must be protected, and that includes those who are in prison.
These persons have been failed throughout their lives, and they have eventually ended up in prison. They are Barbadian. They therefore are eligible for accommodation, meals, medical, safety, okay? By virtue of being in prison does not suddenly say that you wouldn't get any of these benefits, or if you want to call them benefits. They have to be looked after.
A call for local communities to shift focus from the concept of neighborhood watches and to start forming associations. This suggestion from Kenneth Best, Member of Parliament for St. Michael East. Mr. Best says the concept of neighborhood watches gives a stigma to one's community as people only see them in light of the need to reduce criminal activity. The St. Michael MP was delivering the feature address during an installation ceremony marking the reformation of the St. Barnabas 4-H Sports and Cultural Club at the St. Barnabas Church.
That when something happens in the community, then you form this thing just to ensure that you focus on one particular thing, that's to make sure that the occurrence of this crime don't happen again. I would caution you to, on this side, to look seriously at not having a neighborhood watch, but have a neighborhood association. You understand, where you can have, it's almost like a tear down from your 4-H movement.
Mr. Best says youth need to be a part of positive development organizations in order to build their sense of worth. He encouraged them not to be deterred by any negative criticism.
Understand you are not a comet or accident, wandering randomly and aimlessly through life. God has a specific purpose for your life. He does not intend for you to go through life miserable, depressed, lonely, sick, and defeated. So in actual fact, when whatever you do, remember that you must put God before and see yourself how God sees you, not as a loser, but as a winner and an overcomer.
Keeping Barbados clean is not the sole responsibility of government, but every Barbadian. This comment from Minister of the Environment, Dr. Dennis Lowe. He was speaking during the presentation of a compressed natural gas vehicle to the Sanitation Service Authority at the National Petroleum Corporation. He says the objective of keeping Barbados clean can only be achieved if people play their part.
Whether it is reading the road and leaving the debris on the street for an undue amount of time, or throwing something up from a window of a bus or car, I think that we want to distill in our population that the environment is our business, not just the government's business, and that in so acknowledging that fact, that they will become part and parcels of this great partnership.
Mr. Lowe also called for a partnership between the public and the Sanitation Service Authority for this crop over season.
I would hope that that all persons, including the organizers of the crop over festival, recognize the invaluable contribution of the Sanitation Service Authority, and that they will continue to partner. We consider ourselves to be partners, not laborers for the NCF, and therefore it must be treated as a partnership, and I believe that they will continue to work towards achieving that particular objective.
The second Barbados Food, Wine and Rum Festival has been launched by the Barbados Tourism Authority. It takes place in November and will bring together world-famous and award-winning chefs to offer the best culinary delights one can savor. The festival is being packaged as part of an entire experience for visitors during November, utilizing most of Barbados' finest restaurants. President of the BTA, David Rice, says the event promises to help increase Barbados tourism arrivals and should be a boost for the key foreign exchange earning sector. He made the comments at the festival's launch at the Waterside Restaurant in St. Lawrence Gap this morning.
We believe, and I think that we're being very honest about it, that when you compare to the rest of the Caribbean, we are certainly the best in terms of our culinary experience. And I don't think we're being in any way ostentatious, we're just being honest. And therefore, we certainly think that this opportunity for us to showcase Barbados as an international event tells you that we can do it. We did it in 2010. We expect, and there's a tremendous amount of pressure, certainly from our minister and others, to grow the business and grow our visitor counts. And we think and believe we can do that.
Mr. Rice says Barbados must showcase its best image always, and especially during the festival. He says the event has all the hallmarks of an international experience that will leave an indelible mark on visitors.
November 18th to the 21st, we suspect and believe that we can almost double the number of visitors that we had in our first year, and that's our goal. And we need you to help us do that as well.
And Executive Vice President of the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association, Sue Springer, says people can plan for the annual event, noting that the involvement of restaurants during the month of November is to be highly commended.
Exciting, tantalizing, everything, any word you can describe is how I feel about this festival, because Barbados is. And many, many times I have heard people remark when they're visiting here that our restaurants offer some of the food that is equivalent to what they would find in the major cities of London, New York, Miami, etc. We fight continuously for Barbados to be known as the Epicurean capital.